that I can't quite believe I have not driven yet. Now this is super interesting to me, as I now own a 991 GT3 RS, and the 911R and my GT3 RS are very similar cars, sharing a lot of the same parts. Now this is currently for sale with Daniel at DTM Sports Cars, and I bugged him a bit to take it out because I've never driven one, so he's kindly let me take it out for a bit of a back road, small mountain pass blast. And it also just so happens to be in my dream spec. If I was to buy a 911R, it would be GT Silver with the yellow stripes. That would be my spec. I've thought about this car for many years, and the opportunity just didn't come up yet until today. Now it's a bit wet outside, sadly, and the car is on Cup 2 tyres, so taking it relatively easy. But just nice to get out for a test drive in this car. For me, I find this really interesting right now, as I said, with the car I own and with the new ST that's come out, which essentially is a modern version of the 911R. I've not driven the ST yet, but at some point I will get the chance. So it will be also really interesting when I do get to drive an ST to compare it to this. 100% a legendary car. That is no question. Manual gearbox, which is obviously the big difference between this and my GT3 RS. So shares the same engine as my GT3 RS with 500 horsepower, but this is around 50 kilograms lighter than my GT3 RS. Now there were a few options available when you could configure one of these. Of course, aside from the colour and the colour of the stripes, you could choose it with or without aircon and radio and a lightweight single mass flywheel. So this has the lightweight single mass flywheel, which I think is hugely important. If you are looking to buy one of these, 100% get it with that. This also has aircon and the radio. Comes with ceramic brakes as standard, also reducing weight, of course. It's got a 6-speed gearbox that was made just for the 911R. So aside from, of course, some other things, it is otherwise a manual version of my GT3 RS. And I'm really interested to know if after driving this I would really want one. Would I pay that massive premium price over my GT3 RS for one of these? So when these came out, they were, I think, around 180, 190,000 euros you could get one from for list price. And now they're selling online for 350,000 and above. I think this one's online for around 370,000 Swiss francs. It's a perfect condition example, low mileage, I think around 7,000 kilometers. Looks like new. And of course the spec is really nice in GT Silver, just works on the 991 series. So I always thought of the 911R as a bit of a dream car. I never mentioned it before because, well, the prices are just so high on them. It was always very out of reach. So you could buy a top spec 991 GT3 RS 0.1 like mine, you know, for around 190,000 Swiss francs. And with these being around 370,000 Swiss francs, that's quite a bit of difference in price. So is it really worth it? Well, I don't know about that, if it's really, really worth it, but it is a very special car. It's It's one for the purists. And of course it's a limited Porsche, which makes it worth quite a lot more. Only 991 made in the world. Not really intended for track use, just a pure driver's car. Gearbox feels super nice, of course, as always. I really like the interior with the brown parts and the seats and the seat inserts as standard. Really, really smart. It is a special car, it really is. I think time for a small exhaust test. Nothing too crazy as it's still wet, sadly. But exhaust is open, sport mode is on. Not bad. 4 litre flat 6. One of my favourite sounds in the world. Just turning around to head back up the pass. As my GT3 RS, no reversing camera, no parking sensors. But because I've been driving mine now for the last month, I've become quite used to it again. Because up until now, I was spoiled with all modern cars having all of the parking sensors, cameras. So having this manual gearbox alone saves 20 kilograms over the PDK in mine. 4.5 kilograms of sound insulation removed behind me, so you're hearing a bit more of everything. The downside to that maybe is, one of the first things I noticed, you do hear quite a lot more tyre sound. So you're hearing more exhaust and engine, but you're also hearing a lot more tyre sound. Sounds good. Yeah. So the car is weighing in at around 1,370 kilograms with fluids. It's around 1,250 dry. It is a lightweight sports car. Cars these days got especially heavy. It is currently 7 degrees outside, so it's fine to be out with summer tyres today. But it is very slippery, very slowly on the corner, sadly. But it is still February, so the fact that I'm even out in February in Switzerland with summer tyres on is already nice enough. Apparently snow doesn't really come anymore. It's been quite warm the last week. Bearing in mind I'm up in the Alps, I'm quite high and it's still 7 degrees. So I know there's an endless beef about PDK versus manual. I just love both. I love both of them as much as each other. I love the PDK for blasting through the gears and changing gear down here, and I love that with the PDK you can really get the most out of these high revving engines. But of course on the other hand, it's so nice to use the clutch and change gear manually. In the end I would just want both. I would want two 911s, one with PDK, one with a manual gearbox, because it depends on what mood you're in. Revs to 8,500 RPM, which I'm going to struggle to hit today in these conditions. I did there. First one of the day, very nice. So what would you take? Would you pay, you know, over 350,000 for one of these? Or for that same amount of money, you could take a brand new 992 GT3 RS on the market at the moment. They are online for around 350,000. So actually this is going for more than a brand new 992 GT3 RS. What would you take? I think that's quite an interesting topic. I'm just happy to tick it off the list finally. Wanted to drive one of these since it came out. And for whatever reason, I just didn't have the opportunity But I think it's even more special now that I own my car, the 991 GT3RS, to drive this and compare it a bit. 100% I would love a 911R, no questions. I just personally couldn't justify spending that much on this car as my one car, from the enjoyment I get from my own car. I guess this is becoming more of a collector's car now. This was made for doing one thing, and that is pure driving enjoyment. So if you do own one of these, please go and use it. I really hope you do. It is one of the best driver's car out there, no question.